Greetings, beloved Princeton United Methodist Church community. It's Pastor Jenny here, and I'm reading today from John chapter 19, verses 26 and 27. Jesus is on the cross when he says these words. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing beside her, he said to his mother, "Woman, here is your son." And then he said to the disciple, "Here is your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her into his own home. This is the word of life. Thanks be to God. So we are halfway through Lent. And this week, as we continue our Learning to Die journey, we are talking about death that unites us. And I know that this is an odd thing to talk about because I think much of the time when we think about death, we think about separation, we think about loss, we think about losing people, and it can be very strange to think about how death might bring us together. Henry Nouwen talks about this as finding our solidarity with one another. In some ways of looking at that, that is about us knowing that we are part of a human family, that every single one of us, every single one is going to experience death. This is a universal human thing. And as we understand that more, as we see each other in this way, it has a way of uniting us. We can also talk about unifying death that unifies us when we think about how death can bring us and our families in closer spaces. Sometimes that's physically, but there are ways that in the midst of death, in the midst of conversations about death, in the midst of actual dying processes, it can, doesn't always, but it can bring us together with those we love in very powerful, poignant, beautiful ways. Ways that are sometimes really hard to do in other times in our life. Sometimes we have the hard time saying the things that we need to say, and death actually helps us do this in a way that we struggle to otherwise. That's just one kind of example. Throughout Scripture, and especially in the book of John, there is this constant flow of movement that God is always about, always working on to bring people together and people together with God in this very unified, beautiful, flowing sort of way. In fact, one of the beautiful pictures of this is in the image of the vine and the branches. This idea of that Jesus says, "I am the vine and you are the branches," and there's this abiding, this being in and connected to with each other in these life-giving ways, as if the only way we can truly have the life that we have is if we are connected in to God, to Jesus, to this life that they provide, this life that they have with each other. The beautiful thing is all of that is accessible to us. And Jesus' own death is not only the sign and symbol of that unity and that life-giving, pouring out love for us, but Jesus' own death is what gives us an opportunity to see and explore and struggle and wrestle with death and our own mortality in ways that help us see that it could bring us into solidarity, in unity with one another. That there is something more to death than just loss, just separation, just the pain and the struggle. And certainly there is loss and pain and struggle in death. But that is not all it is. And our faith is what brings us closer to that. The faith is what keeps us asking the questions. How does that work? How does that real in my life? Have I seen that happen? Have I experienced it for myself? How can I help that be the experience for us in our community, in my smaller family community, not just biological necessarily, but my smaller community that is my community of family and friends who I want to be affecting in my life and in my death. How can this be? Is a question that I'm inviting you to this week. So I wonder what you think of when you think about these things, about life and death, and about the unity that comes with both of them, that we are invited into, that we might experience unity with one another, unity with God, unity with our whole human family. So I just invite you to take a moment to ponder, to see where this might be part of your experience or part of your longing, even if you haven't experienced it yet. It's even possible that there are stories that you have read, books that you have experienced, or stories of others that might give inspiration and hope and something that can help us understand and see this even more. So friends, I'm holding one of our little wooden crosses. I hope that you still have yours. The hope is that these continue to ground us in these thoughts, and these conversations, and these meditations that we are having as we are learning to die in the death and resurrection of Jesus. And I also hope that you have your book. Again, there are lots of ways you can get this book, or a few different ways you can get it. I hope that you're continuing to look at it, and if you don't have one yet and you are looking for a copy, you can find ways in this email. You can also always contact the church office. Another invitation as well to our Conversations of Living and Dying Well series. We've had one this past Sunday. Dr. Burrell, a palliative care geriatric physician, was here to talk with us, and it was so beautiful and helpful, I think, to hear him and some of his perspectives that are, kind of outside of the church, but also very connected and very informative about how the medical care system does and doesn't help us to die well, and to so much to understand about all of that process. He also talked about having living wills and advance directives and things that are important for people of all ages to know, not just people who are older or people who are facing something, a terminal diagnosis, or any kinds of those health issues or anything. It's for all of us to be exploring this. This coming Sunday, we are having a human library style event, having an opportunity to share some stories around death and dying, and we'll have 3 books. We'll have 3 people who are sharing their stories as books, part of a human library, and the rest of us will gather around as readers of those books. We'll get to hear some of their story, and then we get to ask and interact and have some questions. We have a chaplain, Edwin Arevalo, who attends the Kingston campus. We have a pastor who's also a funeral director joining us, Pastor Geralda from St. Paul's in Willingboro, and we'll also have somebody you may know well, Laverna Albury, who is sharing her story about what it has been to be a spouse who has experienced the death of her significant other, and how she is and has learned to live again, find life in and through death. So I know you'll want to come, and the third week, the Sunday after next, will be an opportunity, a workshop, an interactive time to plan your own funeral, memorial service, celebration of life, farewell service, however you want to call it. We will have an opportunity to do that. Again, this is for people of all ages. This is something that I think that is one of the ways that we can continue to befriend death and have conversations with the people that matter to us about these things, and ways to explore our own faith in the midst of it. So I look forward to seeing you at all of these things. It is always a joy to journey with you. It is always a joy to remind you that you were created for joy, that you are enough because God is enough, that God is right here in the midst of all of these discussions, all of these stories, all of these experiences that you are having and we are having together. I look forward to seeing you soon. Blessings upon your day, your week, and I will see you soon.